Did Jesus really rise from the dead? What happened in that empty tomb on the third day that changed the course of human history forever? Today, we will uncover the mysteries behind Jesus' resurrection, details few know, yet all written in the Bible, with evidence that goes beyond mere faith. Get ready to discover something that can transform your life and renew your hope. Stay with us until the end, because the greatest revelation is still to come. Together, let's unravel what truly happened on that Sunday that changed everything. After the crucifixion, a deep silence settled over the disciples and all of Jerusalem. The man who had so often spoken of hope, love, and power now lay dead, nailed to the cross, covered in pain and humiliation. Imagine the anguish of those who loved him, waiting for what seemed impossible, a sign, a word, a miracle. In that space between Jesus' death and the morning of the third day, fear and doubt ruled. The disciples were lost, confused, afraid. After all, the prophecy that the Messiah would rise on the third day still felt distant, almost like a dream. Luke 24:7 said he would rise, but no one really knew what would happen. What if the silence of that third day was more than just absence? Maybe it was divine waiting, preparing the world for the most extraordinary moment in history. Have you ever stopped to wonder what was going on in the hearts of those who believed and those who rejected that promise? This waiting time invites us to reflect. In which moments of our lives does silence seem like an end, but is actually the beginning of a new story? Jesus promised he would conquer death, and that promise was about to be fulfilled. Imagine the tomb where Jesus was laid. A massive stone sealed the entrance, and Roman soldiers were stationed to guard it. This was no ordinary measure. The religious leaders were afraid. Afraid of what? If Jesus was dead, why so much care to keep anyone from touching the tomb? That stone didn't just block the entrance. It was a symbol of silence and death's power, trying to close the story of Jesus forever. The Pharisees feared the disciples would steal the body to fake a resurrection. The sealed tomb was a barrier, but also a challenge to the faith of Christ's followers. Now for you, have you ever stopped to think why the religious leaders' fear reveals a frightening truth? Deep down, they knew Jesus had power beyond death. What were they trying to hide by guarding the tomb so fiercely? This is where the tension in the story explodes. Because if Jesus really stayed in that tomb, how do we explain the empty tomb? And more, what does this mean for you who seeks to understand the mystery of the resurrection? In that early Sunday morning, the impossible happened. An earthquake shook the ground, and an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, rolling away the stone sealing Jesus' tomb. Matthew 28:2-4. Imagine the guards' shock, falling terrified, frozen before this divine power. That earthquake was more than just a natural event. It was a sign from heaven. The stone that seemed to seal off hope was now rolled away, showing that death no longer had power. But why did the angel need to move the stone if Jesus was no longer there? This action raises a powerful question. What lies beyond what our eyes can see? Can you feel the tension in that moment? The fear of the guards, the courage of the women approaching, the silence turning into a promise. What if this earthquake symbolized the breaking of every barrier that separates us from eternal life? But what happened right after, when the first witnesses arrived at the tomb? Get ready to meet those who saw the greatest miracle in history first, and why that changes everything. Early that morning, some brave women went to the tomb. Among them was Mary Magdalene, a woman transformed by Jesus' grace, honored to be the first to see the risen Christ. Matthew 28:5-7. This shows how God chooses the humble and rejected to announce the greatest news ever told. When they arrived, they found the tomb empty and an angel with a clear message. He is not here, he has risen. Imagine the mix of fear, disbelief, and joy flooding their hearts. Have you ever stopped to think how God can use the unexpected to transform your life? Before we go on, I want to take a quick pause. If you're enjoying this message, please like and subscribe to the channel. That way, I know it's worth it. And I can bring you more messages to strengthen your faith, but don't worry, let's continue this journey together. There's still so much powerful truth ahead. This first encounter was only the beginning. The next part will show a moment that changed Mary Magdalene's life forever and reveals Jesus' personal care for each of us. Imagine Mary Magdalene standing near the tomb, her heart heavy with grief and her mind full of questions. She looks around and suddenly she sees someone, but it's not just anyone, it's Jesus. Yet for a moment she does not recognize him. Silence fills the air. Then, in a pause that feels eternal, he calls her name, Mary. That simple word breaks everything. The sadness, the fear, the confusion. It's as if Jesus is saying, I see you, I know you, you matter to me. Can you feel that emotion? Have you ever imagined Jesus calling your name like that personally, with love and care? This moment is living proof that the resurrection is not just a distant event in time. It is a present reality, touching hearts, transforming lives, and inviting each of us into a deep personal relationship with Him. And what if today Jesus is calling your name too? What would you do? Stay with me because this story is far from over. Now let's discover how this encounter wasn't just for Mary. The disciples had their own experiences that changed everything for them and for the world. You won't want to miss this. Right after Mary Magdalene's meeting, Peter and John ran toward the tomb. John 20:3-8. Imagine the anxiety in their chests, the mix of hope and doubt. Could Jesus really have risen? What would they find there? When they arrive, they see the stone rolled away and the tomb empty, nothing that a body could fill. John goes in and notices the linen cloth folded neatly, carefully placed, nothing like a simple theft or vandalism. This wasn't a hurried escape, but an act of victory and order. Can you feel the shift in their hearts? From doubt to amazement. The empty tomb was not just a sign, it was a clear message. Jesus conquered death. And if the empty tomb could speak, what would it say to you today? The story doesn't stop here. Soon we will see how Jesus appeared to the disciples, proving he was truly alive. Get ready, because the resurrection is more than a mystery. It is a truth that can transform your life. After the shock of the empty tomb, doubt arises. Did Jesus really come back to life? To end all doubt, Jesus appears personally to the disciples. Luke 24:36-43. Imagine the scene, a closed group, frightened, trying to make sense of it all when he appears among them, not as a spirit, but with a real body. He shows his hands and feet, the marks of crucifixion that confirm he is the same Jesus who suffered and died. And to prove it even more, he eats in front of them. This is not symbolic or just spiritual. It is concrete proof of physical victory over death. Have you thought about how much this changes our faith? This isn't a made-up story, but a real encounter that changed those men's lives forever. What if Jesus were here today, proving his presence to you? But there is an even more surprising encounter, where Jesus reveals something essential for anyone seeking to truly understand the resurrection. This could change everything. Two disciples were walking full of sadness and questions, away from the city and the crowd. Luke 24:13-32. Little did they know they were about to experience an encounter that would change their lives forever. Who is this stranger approaching and starting to talk with them? As they walked, Jesus, still unrecognized, explained the scriptures, showing how all the prophecies spoke of his death and resurrection. Imagine their hearts slowly warming, hope being reborn amid pain and doubt. The most emotional moment comes at the end, when Jesus breaks the bread, and finally, their eyes open. They recognize the living Jesus there, in the simple act of breaking bread, a powerful sign that he is present in our daily walk. And have you ever wondered if Jesus is walking beside you today, even when everything seems dark and uncertain? That presence can transform your life, just as it transformed theirs. After all these proofs and encounters, Jesus gives his disciples a clear mission. Matthew 28:18-20. He didn't just rise to prove he conquered death, but so that each one would share this victory with the whole world. Jesus calls them to make disciples, baptize, and teach everything he commanded, a call that echoes to us today. It's not an invitation for the perfect, but for those who believe and want to bring hope where there is despair. Imagine the weight and courage of those men who moved from doubt and fear to proclaim the message that would change the course of humanity. And you, are you ready to answer this call? This mission is a personal invitation to everyone watching to carry the light of the resurrection and be part of this living story. After all they saw and experienced, the disciples moved from fear and doubt to unshakable faith. Many faced persecution, imprisonment, and even death, all because they refused to deny that Jesus truly rose. Think about it. Ordinary men, without political power or influence, willing to die for something they swore they saw with their own eyes. This courage only makes sense if the resurrection was real and life-changing. These witnesses are the final and perhaps the most powerful historical proof of Christ's victory over death. Have you reflected on what this means for your own faith and hope? What if that same power that moved the disciples could work in you, bringing life where there is death, hope where there is despair? The resurrection of Jesus was not just an ancient event to mark history. It is the living promise that death has been defeated, hope is reborn, and eternal life is within reach of all who believe. John 11:25-26. This is the greatest mystery and, at the same time, the greatest gift God gives us. Today, Jesus is alive and wants to resurrect your faith, your hope, and your weary heart. Are you ready to accept this invitation and let him truly transform your life? If this message touched your heart, leave a comment, share it with those who need to hear this truth, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue this journey of faith together. Remember, the resurrection of Christ is the victory over death and the path to a new life, full of purpose and peace. This is the truth that never changes.